on his character's face. "Please don't do that." "Guys," Gracie said a bit desperately, laughing despite herself. "The tabard. Honest to God, someone weigh in on the damned color." Alan sighed, taking pity on her. "Red, obviously. No one's come up with a better name than Red Squadron, so we should go with that." Gracie moved the slider over to the reds and had people weigh in until she selected a faded shade, something that reminded her of the scrappy, battered aesthetic of the Resistance. "What about a V?" Kevin suggested for the sigil. "For Red 5. "I like that." Gracie selected it in a very pale gray, and everyone stared at it for a few moments. They all laughed when Chowder's armor reappeared. "I know you weren't actually staring at my naked body, as perfect as it is in real life," the Okru said, "but it still felt weird to have everyone looking." "Says the guy who did the whole burlesque show," Gracie replied affectionately. "I live in Vegas, man, and even I've never seen some of those moves." "Hey, I could come to Vegas and be a stripper." Chowder gave them all a double thumbs up. "Women like super skinny guys who can't dance, right?" He looked around. "Right?"
"Who knows?" Kevin shrugged. "Lots of guys like skinny, though."
"Gay guys have all the luck," Chowder muttered.
"Well, that's just not accurate," Kevin said.
Gracie shook her head and chuckled as she paid for the tabard, handing glittering gold coins over to a very lifelike shopkeeper. The whole store was everything one would expect of a fantasy world, from the flickering candlelight, that somehow wasn't too dim to see by, to the bolts of cloth hovering magically in midair along one wall. Everywhere Gracie looked, there were little details to revel in. A mouse ran along one wall, smudges and dents showed on the heavy wooden counter, and music filtered in from the street. Metamorphosis Online was one of the most immersive places she had ever been, a world so realistic that sometimes she almost felt like she could smell the street food and the smoke from the braziers at each corner. Of course, the whole effect was somewhat spoiled by the fact that the game's creators hated her guts. But she was trying not to think about that right now. A moment later, the guild's founding members burst into cheers as they found themselves dressed in the new tabard. Alan's character looked tiny and delicate, her golden hair and flushed skin adorably set off by the red, and Lachesis spun around twice to admire the way the cloth lay over her plate armor. "Love this," she said in satisfaction. "All hail Red Squadron," Gracie called, forcing a smile. She really wished she hadn't thought about the game developers, but what was done was done. "So, what should we do now that we all look so snazzy?"
"Somehow I sense you're not talking about walking around town all dressed up, letting people bask in our glow."
Kevin picked a bit of non-existent lint off his tabard.
"And I want you to know I think that's a mistake. This thing is nice, and I don't want to get blood all over it."
"You're not a melee fighter," Lachesis pointed out. "So if you get blood all over you, someone else isn't doing their job."
"Still."
"I know where we could go," a new voice said. Gracie looked over quickly, emoting a smile, and there was a round of cheers and greetings. "Anders, good to see you." Jay's character gave a flourishing bow. "Hello all. From the way I suddenly found myself wearing a tabard, I figured I might find you all here." "You look good," Chowder said. "Not as good as me, of course." "Does anyone look as good as you?" Jay asked philosophically. He slung an arm around Chowder's shoulders. "No one answer that," Chowder ordered, pointing around at all of them. "Anyway, where are you taking us?" "Oh, nowhere special." Jay made a show of inspecting his clothing for dust, an especially ostentatious gesture given that in-game clothes never got dirty. "Just the edge of the world." "Oh," the rest of the team said in unison. Each zone in Metamorphosis Online was bounded in various creative ways, so that players could see the world stretching away endlessly in all directions, but could only play in a certain area. Lately, however, there had been rumors flying around that there was a way to get all the way to the edge of one zone and walk out into nothingness. Some people said the game's moderators hung out there.